You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies. Hello and welcome to Affected by Altitude, the Colorado Rockies podcast on Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Evan Lang, and with me, as always, representing the Red Band Trout of the Spokane Indians, high affiliate of the Colorado Rockies, it is Skyler Timmons.
Is that what this is? I thought it was just a regular old fishing hat.
I mean, you could wear it fishing, and then it would be a fishing hat.
No.
Do you fish?
No, I do not.
Have you ever fished?
I've tried it a couple times. I don't have the patience for it. I do not like just sitting there waiting for a stupid fish to grab a worm.
I have never fished. And I suppose, this is probably going to hopefully not insult too many people, but if you don't drink, then fishing's kind of a waste of time, because most of the people I know who love to fish because it's an excuse to drink a bunch of beer on a boat.
The people I know that fish do not drink, and they just absolutely love it, of the just sitting there and thinking.
I don't want to think.
Yeah, if you want to go and like sit and just hang out in nature, that's good. And like there's people that legitimately like eating fish. But I just don't like sitting there. I can't stand just sitting there. If I'm out in the woods, I like to go off exploring and stuff, or off in the mountains.
What do you mean there's no
sit there
Nintendo on this boat?
Yeah, and like people I know that don't go out and do the boat fishing and stuff. It's sitting on the side of the creek and doing fly fishing and stuff like that.
I mean, I'd try it. Like, I'd try fishing if I had the time, or knew a ton of people who did it, but I don't, and I don't want to. So there we are. I eat fish. I like fish. Nice fresh fish, delicious.
I don't like that aspect either. So
you don't like fish?
Nope.
Did not know that. Do you like any seafood?
Nope.
No crab, no shellfish?
Nope.
Have you ever had lobster?
Nope.
We're learning a lot today.
If I was meant to eat it, it would have been put on land.
I'm going to just dump a fish with like horrible malformed mutant legs attached and be like, eat it.
It's the fish from the video game Seaman.
Oh, with the Leonard Nimoy face. Or there are fish that like can briefly traverse the land. I'll dump one of those in front of you and be like, eat it. Eat the walking fish.
Gross.
It's like that episode of The Simpsons where they try and make Mr. Burns eat Blinky.
Mm-hmm. I will not be running for governor, though. So,
well, speaking of changes in position, although Skyler's not running for governor
yet,
we'll start off the show by talking about a big announcement that came out today. Day of recording was Rockies Fest down at Coors Field, and one of the major things that came out of Rockies Fest early this morning was a special announcement that one Mr. Charlie Blackmon was joining the front office as a special assistant to the general manager. Charlie said he was going to take some time away from baseball, spend time with his family, do all that, enjoy the retired life. He did that for approximately 4 months and now is back in the fold. Charlie now has the same title as Clint Hurdle, Todd Helton, and Vinny Castilla, of that sort of special assistant role. It means a variety of different things. Basically means he can be a uniformed member of the team in the dugout if he wants to be like Vinny. But there's also the aspect of being able to, travel with the team or go out and look at prospects and teach prospects, things like that. Be a major presence at spring training. I think we all knew this move was coming at some point. The Rockies tend to offer these sorts of positions to the franchise heroes, as it were, and Charlie is definitely one of them, especially when he said when he retired that he still planned to be involved with the Rockies organization. I think this is a little faster than some of us expected. Like, I expected maybe next year or something like that, because all he had really alluded to was that he'd be at spring training coming up here in about a month and change. But Skyler, what are your thoughts on this promotion, as it were, for the retired Chuck Nasty?
I wonder how many people thought when they saw just the words "Chuck is back" and figured, oh, the Rockies re-signed him for some reason, even though he retired. But it was a pretty typical move. We all knew he was going to come back in some capacity. They had said that pretty much at the end of the season during his retirement press conference. And so they didn't. This isn't a surprise for anybody. I figured he'd come back as soon as possible anyway, because it's not a very rigorous position. Because outside of like Vinny Castilla, who's there every single day around the big league club, and probably Clint Hurdle a little bit, it's not as demanding a position. And so we've talked about it before. It probably falls into the same camp as Todd Helton's role, which is, hey, like maybe once or twice a month, gonna travel to one of the minor league teams and hang out with them for a couple days, and maybe go out somewhere and check out if they want me to go scout a guy or look at a guy for them. So just various things for Chuck to do. He still does have young kids at home, so it's not going to be probably a demanding 24/7 job, but just something to keep him involved, and they can use his expertise as needed around the organization, which it was good to keep him around that lifelong Rocky.
Yeah, I do think, unlike Clint and unlike Todd, I do think we're going to see Chuck occasionally in the dugout or, doing stuff with the big league team at Coors Field, just because I don't think he wants to be that separated from like day-to-day baseball life yet. Like Vinny still goes out and does BP with the boys sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I honestly expect Chuck to do. We'll see, of course, as the season goes on. But I think honestly, the biggest part is, like you said, more of the Todd Helton role when he's going around and teaching these prospects, what it's like to be a Rocky and imparting his, wisdom and skills after a long and fruitful baseball career onto the next generation. I'm happy that he's back. I don't think we ever expected he was going to be away forever or anything like that, especially because they outright said, oh, he'll be back.
Yeah. And I wonder what those conversations would be like. He's sitting down with the guys like, okay, prepare yourself for a lot of failure and don't expect to win much, but hey, you're going to have a lot of fun. Thanks, Mr. Blackmon.
I was trying to think of the way to phrase it. It's like, I don't know. Sometimes they didn't seem like they were having a lot of fun last year.
Yeah. And I wonder, if you're Charlie, how much of a shock is it going to be just seeing more of the behind the scenes stuff? I'm sure he got enough of it, but still as a player, you're a little removed from it. And so an interesting aspect of him, because so many of these players, after they retire, it's pretty common practice. They come back to teams, get hired as special assistants. And I wonder if then this is him just kind of feeling out the waters of, okay, what do I want to do in baseball? And so this more or less an internship for Chuck to figure out what's the next thing he wants to focus on. So he'll probably have a shotgun blast of, okay, he's going to do some scouting. He's going to help with the draft. Maybe, now he's going to go help do some coaching and some other stuff, or he's going to work on in the analytics department, learn that kind of mechanical stuff. So I wonder if he'll just hit a wide range of things to just figure out, what do you want to do, Chuck?
What it reminds me a lot of is when Scott Oberg was medically sidelined with his blood clots. And eventually he was named a special assistant. I think they called him a special assistant of development and scouting.
Yeah.
But Oberg tried a whole bunch of different things, like even from hanging out with the grounds crew at the field to scouting, and eventually settled into his role now of, I still don't think they've officially announced it yet.
Not yet, no.
As the minor league pitching coordinator. And like you said, I think it's going to be the same for Chuck of, do I want to manage? Do I want to scout? What do I want to do in my post-playing baseball life? Because I don't think Chuck is ever, you see plenty of baseball guys where once they're retired, like they still do some stuff here and there, but they're largely detached from the regular baseball day to day. Like their career is over, their baseball life is over, and they move on to the next thing. But guys like Chuck, your real lifers, they never really want to walk away from the thing that they've known their entire life. Yeah. And so you've got to figure out, well, what's next for me? And it's going to be a period of change. It's going to be some growing pains. You've already seen the major change is at Rockies Fest today. It was revealed that the mullet is gone.
I'm sure that thing was gone like the day he gets home after the season.
And it's funny because like he's still got the big bushy beard, but I would say he looks a little more normal without the mullet, so to speak. He looks more just like a guy with a big beard versus, the Chuck Nasty we came to know and love. But
he's Charles Nasty now.
Charles Winifred Nasty the Fourth. But it's going to be really interesting to see where he eventually lands, because I don't think he's going to be a special assistant forever. But it's tough to say, because I would have assumed at this point that Vinny Castilla would have found something different or moved into a different role, and he just keeps trucking along as that special assistant to the GM and doing what he's doing. But there's nothing wrong with that either. If that's what he's happy doing, then absolutely.
It's a nice cushy job for old Vinny Castilla. Like, comes and hangs out in the dugout, just gets to hang around baseball players all day, and maybe does some mentorship and does some other things, I'm sure, behind the scenes. But otherwise, doesn't seem like the job duties are very rigorous. And so just a nice, simple job in the baseball industry. Like, heck, I'd go do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us would, but I think it's just funny because sometimes, like I said, sometimes people use that as sort of a launching point to try and figure out what they want to do. And like I said, maybe this is what Vinny wants to do. And I think the weirdest thing for Charlie is, if I were in his shoes, I think the weirdest thing for me would be watching someone else kind of develop, grow, and take over that sort of clubhouse leader role. I think that would be really weird, because he was the guy who led the team out onto the field every home game.
Yeah.
It was quiet guy or not, it was his clubhouse. This is Chuck's clubhouse.
Yeah. And that brings up a good point of a cause of concern, is you hope that he doesn't like kind of come back and spend a bunch of time where it's kind of like he's that high school senior who just graduated, but he's still hanging around for some reason. And like, you want somebody else to develop and take over that leadership role that he had. And so if you're the Rockies, I hope they don't try to become too reliant of like, Chuck, we need you around the clubhouse to help out the guys and stuff. Don't become too reliant on him. He can come in occasionally, once or twice a month, or like a series or two a month for a week. But don't become reliant on him. Let a Ryan McMahon, let a Michael Toglia, Brenton Doyle, Ezekiel Tovar, let them make the clubhouse what they want it to be.
Yeah.
Don't rely too heavily on Chuck in that aspect.
The whole thing about having the team move into its next generation is letting that happen and letting that develop sort of organically. And we've seen that now multiple times, where you see the Blake Street, the era of the Bombers passes and develops into something else. Your era of Rocktober passes and develops into Generation R, or Todd and the Toddlers, as it was called back then. And then Todd Helton leaves, and you see new people step up and become the face of the clubhouse, the clubhouse leader. And now you've got to let it happen again. It's the natural progression of things.
Yeah, so it should be just fun for him. Then I'm sure he'll do that minor league traveling. I think that'll be the fun part for him, and showing up at spring training and stuff. Good for him. And it go share his expertise and just lifelong experience, and maybe help spread some plate discipline throughout the system, going around traveling and helping guys out. Should be a good little role. It's nice to just have Chuck still in the fold, as we all knew he would be. It'd be nice if they'd announce they're retiring number 19, but I think the Rockies are going to follow the way of the Mariners, where it's Hall of Fame or bust. Otherwise, you don't get your number retired.
Which is silly, but I do get that reasoning. But when you're the Rockies, and you are very unlikely to have another Hall of Famer anytime soon.
Yeah.
I would, like we've said a million times, though, I would mind a whole lot less if they had an actual, Ring of Fame, Hall of Fame kind of thing.
Yeah. And we'll see if those conversations come up. And that seems like something they'll announce later on. Have they announced? They haven't really announced promotional schedule, have they?
Promotional schedule has not been announced yet.
Yeah, so maybe something will come up then. But
I just want more bobbleheads. There were only 2 bobblehead games in all of 2024.
Yeah. Well, maybe the sponsors aren't lining up to get those bobbleheads made for them.
I mean, probably not, but I like bobbleheads.
You get your King Supers one and then XL.
You get a couple from Excel. I've seen them from Shane Company.
Is that a company who makes Shane?
You don't know the Shane Company?
I've never met him.
Are you doing? Skyler, I cannot tell if you're doing a bit.
I don't live in Denver. I don't know places up there.
The Shane Company is like the official. I don't know if they still are. They were like the official diamond sponsor, like jewelry sponsor of the Rockies, and they used to always have the radio ads. Now you have a friend in the diamond business. The Shane Company at shaneco.com.
Ew.
You don't know this?
Maybe.
That's wild. That's nuts to me.
Mm-hmm.
How do you not know this?
I don't know the names of things. I know that there's always a jewelry company that sponsors places. I don't know their names.
I don't know why. That's just very funny to me. Yeah, give us more bobbleheads next year, though.
Mm-hmm. But make sure you have that game where you give a light bulb to everybody afterwards.
They've done that now a couple years in a row, and I still think it's weird.
Yeah. Also, before we wrap this up and move on, speaking of promotions, hey, give us shirt sizes.
Yes. So my friend was at a game in Texas. I think it was a Dallas Mavericks game, but I'm not sure. And they had a giveaway item. And if you got the wrong size, you could go to the guest relations window and exchange it for a size that would actually fit you. Because that's the thing. The one size fits all stuff doesn't actually fit a lot of people.
No.
Like, I was really surprised because on the last game of the season in 2024, they gave away a City Connect style beanie for like a snow hat kind of thing. And those are almost always way too small for my gargantuan head. And this one fit. It fits very well. And I'm legitimately surprised because I feel like every giveaway beanie that I get is way too small.
Yeah, my Los Rockies jersey promotion, can't wear it because I'm too big for it. A large does not fit. And that's even disregarding that I'm just a little chubby fellow at the moment. I'm 28 and I'm 6'2" and I've got big broad shoulders. Those larges don't fit.
Yeah, I am not the size I was when I was a teenager. I can't squeeze into a large anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be XL or bust.
Yeah.
And bust, I mean, the buttons will bust off. Just like
I could wear it. This is going to be very unflattering for me and everybody else involved.
You don't want this.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing they do well is giveaway hats. Giveaway hats are usually fine.
Good for them.
Anyway,
on that awkward note,
I guess the last thing I do just want to say, and we might talk about this a little bit more in the next part, just bringing up that Ichiro Suzuki is in the Hall of Fame, as CC Sabathia and Billy Wagner finally in his final year of eligibility. And we'll just talk about probably in the second half really quick what became of the 2 Rockies on the ballot. So we'll be right back after a quick ad break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Affected by Altitude with Skyler and Evan. Thanks for sticking with us through that break. And so, Skyler, we officially have the 2025 Hall of Fame class CC Sabathia, Ichiro Suzuki, near unanimously, only missed out by one vote of being unanimous. Was it Dick? Who are the other guys?
Dick Allen and Dave Parker.
And Billy Wagner's final year of eligibility. And there were two Rockies on this ballot, Troy Tulowitzki and Carlos Gonzalez. And what was really nice to see is that, so we made it through the entire like pre-reveal public voting section. Neither of them got a single vote, which I'm not surprised for Cargo, because I've even said as a homer, I probably wouldn't tick that box for Cargo. But I kept saying for Troy Tulowitzki, it was gosh darn criminal because, yes, he lost a lot of his career to injuries. He lost essentially 5 full seasons worth of baseball to injuries, but still put up 44.5 wins above replacement, I believe. And for a good 7 years there, from 2007 to 2014, he was the best shortstop in baseball. And so while I didn't expect him to get inducted into Hall of Fame or anything like that, I thought it was totally criminal that he didn't get any of those publicly known votes. But with all of the voting now revealed in terms of percentages and number of votes, Troy Tulowitzki did get 4 ballots in his name. And the big surprise to me was that Cargo got 2. So a couple people voted for Cargo as well. And it's nice to see them get votes, although they do both drop off of the ballot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're notable. And this points to the fact that the Rockies need their own team Hall of Fame to celebrate their history, celebrate their players. Because there's a lot of players in their history that are not going to be in the Hall of Fame. And they're in 30-year history. 2 guys. Matt Holliday fell off after his first year of the ballot as well. I didn't think he really got any votes either. But a bunch of other guys, Houston Street has fallen off. Justin Morneau. Tons of guys just haven't gone anywhere. And it's just weird to me with Tulowitzki that maybe should have garnered a little bit more support. Not enough really to get to the Hall of Fame, but more support. And the fact that Dustin Pedroia gets nearly 12% of the vote, pretty similar career-wise. Yeah, Pedroia played, like 200 more games, but that's it. Like, other than that, 51.9 WAR because he could steal bases. But like pretty similar in their aspects of the injuries and everything. And Tulowitzki, more impactful player.
Yeah.
Even though you can point to, Pedroia was a rookie of the year and an MVP and won 2 World Series, won a couple of championships with the Red Sox. They're like, Tulo could have won MVP numbers at times, should have been rookie of the year. And it's not his fault the Rockies stunk and he couldn't get championships. So it's all that fun stuff.
And for 2024, Matt Holliday got the same amount. He got 4 votes for roughly 1% of the ballot and fell off after his first year. But when you look at, guys that got more votes than Tulo, Brian McCann and Russell Martin, Ian Kinsler.
Yeah. Ian Kinsler should have gotten more votes, more than Pedroia. Like, you look at Kinsler's numbers, he and Tulo should have both gotten a little bit more support.
I do agree with that, but more than Tulo anyway is still like, I don't know. I find it all ridiculous. It drives me insane. And it's like the fact that people started voting for Omar Vizquel again. And, so apparently enough time has passed on that. But then seriously, it's like Troy Tulowitzki, yes, had an injury-shortened career, but the fact that he didn't even make it past the first ballot it's always going to be frustrating, especially when in the near future, there is not going to be any Rockies players on this ballot that even stand a chance of making it past the first round. Mm-hmm. And I get that. I do. We're entering the period of baseball of Hall of Fame eligibility where the players were not that good.
Yeah.
A dark time for the Rockies in terms of that. I get it. But it's always going to rub me the wrong way, especially like that one guy who didn't let Ichiro be unanimous. And I'm sorry, Ichiro Suzuki should have been a unanimous Hall of Famer. And I guarantee you the mindset for that guy was, well, if such and such wasn't unanimous, then Ichiro shouldn't be.
It just points to why the heck is Mariano Rivera the only unanimous Hall of Famer? Like, there's arguments to be made that he shouldn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's just a statistical anomaly, quirk, and thing. He's a Hall of Famer through and through, regardless of what one weirdo says. And you look through baseball history, there should be way more than just one unanimous player.
Yeah.
So it's whatever. Who cares? He's in. That's all that matters. You only need 75%. He blew that over. Anything beyond that is just an extra luxury.
And he's been an amazing sport about it. Like he was saying, like, oh, I'll invite that one voter over for dinner. We'll have some drinks, and I just want to talk to him. I just want to talk to him. But Ichiro's always been a really good sport about pretty much everything throughout his entire career. One of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite, non-Rockies baseball player of all time. So I am so happy to see him get in. And honestly, like, there isn't anyone in this class who's I'm going to go, I don't think they should be in. I absolutely think everybody who made it in should be here. CC Sabathia, amazing. Billy Wagner, a truly dominant and often overlooked how dominant he was closer. Dick Allen and Dave Parker, 100% on board. It is a good Hall of Fame class. I like this Hall of Fame class a lot.
Back-to-back years, good Hall of Fame classes.
But it just is funny to me that, there are other guys who should have been, Ichiro should have been unanimous. Ken Griffey Jr. I would even argue, like, Derek Jeter probably should have been unanimous, but he was one of those, it was another one. I think it was one guy didn't vote for him.
Yeah.
So that brings up my gripe about Derek Jeter is that Derek Jeter was a first ballot Hall of Famer. Larry Walker was statistically better than Derek Jeter, but had to wait until his final year of eligibility, but got in. So
yeah, they're in nonetheless.
Yeah, good Hall of Fame class. Really looking forward to the inauguration stuff as the year goes on. The Mariners are doing some really cool stuff for Ichiro. They're going to retire his number 51. Very cool. I dig it. And so we'll go ahead and move right on from the old guys, the Hall of Famers, to the young guys, because we have some prospect rankings coming out, and we'll just go ahead and right off the bat go with the fact that the Rockies only have 2 top 100 prospects going into spring training, which is interesting because around this time last year we had like 6 or 7.
Yeah, it speaks a lot to just how the year went for a lot of Rockies prospects. Adiel Amador, Zach Veen, several other guys just struggling in various aspects of injury or other things. And just the prospect rankings are going to be so volatile. You'll have a very top, highly thought of prospect who then has a really rough year and drops in rankings and maybe doesn't have the pedigree or prestige as maybe some other guys. It's like a Zach Veen. He has a rough year. He loses his spot. A different player with maybe a little bit well-regarded, he has a bad year. He probably sticks in that top 100. But most of the Rockies guys were in the later 50 anyway. So that's going to change so much anyway. When it's top 100, like past 50, it's like, okay.
Yeah, you're just happy you have people in the top 100.
I'm just happy to be included.
Yeah, pretty much. We fared a little bit better in the Baseball America rankings. In Baseball America's top 100, the Rockies do have 3 prospects. But I think all of the guys who made it onto both listings are the most interesting prospects in our organization right now. With the MLB Pipeline rankings, it's Chase Dollander coming in as the highest ranked Rocky at number 25, and then Charlie Condon at number 29. And, those are pretty much the agreed upon top 2 prospects for the Rockies organization.
It's just so interesting to me that Condon, who a lot of people, he could have been a number 1 overall last year, couldn't he?
Yes.
Like there was part of those projections, he was in that mix. And it's just wild that Travis Zana, who was the number 1 overall pick, did that up his pedigree and why he's in that top 10 prospects. Whatever, he's really high up there, and Condon's basically at 30, scraping into that top 30. It's just interesting to me of how the shaked out. And could it be because Condon struggled after getting drafted?
I think it is.
Adjustment?
Because I'm pretty sure, I need to relook, but I'm pretty sure all of those top 4 picks ended up in the top 100. But it really is like there was no real unanimous top 1 consensus pick for the 2024 draft. And for Condon, it really was, he struggled. He had a tough time in his first professional, season. But I think the fact that he is still in the top 30 speaks at how good he could potentially be. And I think he has a good season, honestly. I think, that you just played a full season of college baseball, and then you're dumped into your first season of professional ball. And it's a tough adjustment for a lot of young guys.
Well, yeah, because sorry to cut you off, because you don't have the rookie league anymore. And so it's not him taking a first full season from the get-go of, with the Grand Junction Rockies starting in June and then through the end of the season in a short season. It's hopping right into the middle of I still think he could have benefited going to Fresno for a little bit that point in the year, but they send him straight to high A, and he struggles where you're among guys that are already halfway through a season in their rhythms and everything, or guys that have been playing since April at the professional level, and you're throwing him into the middle. Of course he struggled a little bit.
Yeah, I do think it makes development harder for players with the contraction of the minor leagues. You're going from potentially 6 levels of development to 4. And I think, like you said, it doesn't really help that there's no rookie level ball anymore, because the Arizona Complex League is, if it's not over, it's almost over by the time you get to the draft. And so, there are some guys that will play some like simulation games and things down at the Arizona Complex, but it's not like actual meaningful games.
Yeah, it's like super short season. They send them down there, but it's kind of that short little.
Yeah, it's more of a conditioning thing than anything else at that point in the season. Yeah. And to get dumped into Spokane, where they're in the middle of a big playoff push and they've got a lot going on, that's not an easy environment to thrive in, especially when you're making all of those adjustments. Now, I do think Condon has a ton of potential to really break out as a prospect this season. Every indication I've seen is the Rockies intend to, let him cook, as it were. He's either going to start the season in Double-A or High-A again, and we'll see where it goes from there. And I think how he does this season is going to be a lot more indicative of anything than, because there were a lot of people who, after his rough season, were like, "Oh, this guy's a bust. Oh, this isn't going to work out." And it's like, whoa there, champs. Ease up off the doom brakes.
Yeah. I just wonder, where the heck is he playing? They ranked him as one of the top 10 outfield prospects in baseball. But it's the comparisons they keep making to him being like Chris Bryant, the younger Chris Bryant, and putting him as an outfielder. That puts up red flags for me. I'm like, no, don't do that. Because they've noted where defense isn't exactly his strong point. Like, he's still a decent defender, but it's not as fast. Maybe questions about arm strength at times and everything over at third base. It seemed like we had always like, first base seems like primed for him to take over at some point.
Yeah.
But it seems like, no, the Rockies are going to keep preaching that versatility and he can play all these positions. And so you got to figure out what's going to work best for him, where he can flourish defensively while also being effective offensively, because he would split time between the left field and third base in Spokane. So it's kind of figuring out where he's going to play. And I'm sure he's up for that versatility, but He's your top prospect. Don't be preaching versatility for him.
Yeah.
You pick a spot for him and like, okay, you're going to play there where you're going to be most successful, and we'll work around that.
For me, I see his future being either third or first base. I think that would be better for him overall, especially when, again, this organization is so packed with outfield prospects and outfielders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like right now, probably my ideal outfield in like 2-3 years would be Cole Carrig in left, Brenton Doyle in center, and Zach Veen in right.
Or variations of that, of Jordan Beck
or
in
some
right,
variation.
or Kerrigan
Slot
center
in
field.
other prospects, yeah.
Somebody else in left. Doyle gets traded off somewhere else. Who knows?
No, don't you put that evil on me.
Hey, got to be open to everything.
I already had to deal with a traumatic trade this week. My beloved Moose taken from me.
Hey, Avs needed to change.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, but it's just figuring out where to put him. I hope a full clean slate, fresh start to the season. I look forward to see Charlie Condon, see what he can do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Regular season that's not weird. Just drop in the water and see if he swims. Just let him figure things out. Should be good to see. And
let him cook.
Yeah, and then Dollander, Chase Dollander. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens. If he can crack the roster in spring training, I doubt he does. Just because who would they replace? They have all their beloved veterans there for Bud Black. So who knows? But at some point, a Paul Skeens route where he's up beginning of May or something.
Yeah, and we talk more about Condon because Condon is more of the not unknown, but like, still charting his path versus we've talked a ton about Dollander previously. We know Dollander is going to be in the bigs at some point this year. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it unless he gets hurt or something like that. And,
find some wood to knock on, Evan.
And for me, it's that we already know how good how good Chase Dollander can be. We have seen how good he can be. And we already know what his future position is. They've already said they're not going to start him in the bullpen. Dollander is a rotation pitcher. And when he makes his big league debut, it's going to be as part of the rotation.
Yeah. Yeah, which is probably the starting of our transition to the next topic of him being one of the non-roster invitees and given every chance to make the starting rotation, which is refreshing to hear. We're like, yeah, we know they know of his caliber, they know what he's done, and they're going to give him every opportunity to crack this big league roster come opening day, which is nice to hear coming from the Colorado Rockies. There's no doubt of them doing that. There's still doubt of if he makes the roster, but them coming out and saying, no, we're going to do this and laying it out there, it's refreshing here instead of, oh, we don't know, maybe we'll see what he can do in spring training.
It's also just really nice to have a pitching prospect for the Rockies that not only do the Rockies seem to have a clear direction of what they want to do with him, but it's also recognized throughout the national media once that, hey, y'all, the Rockies got a good pitching prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Like Baseball Prospectus in their prospect rankings were like, we think the Rockies might have figured out how to develop pitchers. And if that's the case, that's bonkers.
I wouldn't go that far, but
I do think
how to pinpoint guys that could have good arms. They don't know how to develop them yet.
I do think their scouting and talent identification when it comes to starting pitching has gotten a lot better, especially in recent drafts, because, as I've gone over on Purple Room, we've talked a little bit here, over the last decade or so, especially from like 2015 to 2019, and even a little bit of 2020, the Rockies, in terms of scouting and talent identification and evaluation and what they've gotten out of their drafts, has not been good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now, as we get into the 2020 and beyond draft players starting to make their debut, if we can start to push things up, or we've already seen some really interesting things. Seth Halverson made his debut and is raising a lot of green flags for me. And you've got all these other players from these previous drafts now who maybe you can finally set aside. All right, yeah, for that era, the Rockies were pretty bad when it came to drafting and developing. But if they can actually turn things around now, and if Chase Dollander can be the start of that, because it's not just Chase Dollander, and we'll talk about this some more in just a minute, but there's a lot of other really interesting pitchers coming to spring training.
Yeah. And I think my thing with the Rockies has always been they're good at identifying talent and talent potential. They have been awful at extracting that potential from players a lot of the time through in the results of what has come from the draft. And that's kind of always been the thing. And so it's Chase Dollander, who still, we knew his raw potential, and they've helped him a little bit, like get back on track. I'm still always going to be a little cautious of, well, what's going to happen when he gets to the big league team? How is the big league team going to help him be good in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, that's true. What they really need is to not let the big league coaching staff mess with him too much.
No, he's got to throw those sinkers down at the knees, Evan. That's the success at the big league level.
I'll pass.
That happens. That's baseball.
No. But we're going to take one last quick break, so don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the third and final segment of this week's edition of Affected by Altitude with Evan and Skyler. And Skyler, we alluded to it a little bit, but the Rockies announced just this week that there are 23 non-roster invitees for spring training this year. And of course, leading the charge is Chase Dollander, who we've already talked about extensively, going to be given every opportunity to potentially make the big league roster out of spring training. But there's a bunch of other really interesting guys on this list, a ton of prospects. 14 of the 23 players invited are homegrown minor leaguers or prospects, and 1, 2, 3,
like 10 of them are of the 10 of them are like from the top 30.
Yeah, and nine of these guys are from our mid-season 2024 Perps prospect rankings over on Purple Row, are in that top 30 listing. And so going through the full list, you've got left-handed pitchers Jack O'Loughlin, Carson Palmquist, Sean Sullivan, and Jeffrey Yan. Right-handed pitchers Zach Agnos, Diego Castillo, Chase Dollander, Tommy Doyle, who is rejoining the Rockies organization, Gabriel Hughes, and Jake Woodford. 4 catchers by way of Brian Betancourt, Braxton Fulford, Austin Nola, and Ronaker Palma. Infielders Julio Carreras, Keston Hura, Kyle Karros, Nick Martini, and Ryan Ritter. Outfielders Cole Carrig, Benny Montgomery, and Sterling Thompson. And the one designated utility player is Owen Miller. And overall, that's a pretty strong list. There are some red flags, such as having Nick Martini listed as an infielder.
Yeah, let's look at those. Looking up, let's see appearances. Yes, 4 appearances at the big league level in the infield. All 4 coming at first base in 2023.
I'm really hoping that he is just there as a camp body. You cannot, unless he has an absolutely insane spring training, and I'm talking like top tier, you cannot consider having him on your opening day 26-man roster. You just can't.
Let's see. In his career, in his like entirety of his like all levels, let's see, 10 seasons across all levels. He's played first base in 155 games. Through the majors, through the minors, through foreign, probably in summer league.
Yeah. So this guy is 34 years old. He's been playing baseball a long time. He has essentially played 1 season worth of first base. And to have him listed as an infielder, little worrying.
Jake Cave. What if Jake Cave but first base?
And older.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, the Rockies.
So weird. It's not even listed on his baseball reference. Why would you designate him as an infielder?
It's either a typo, which I don't think it is, or it's a...
No, that's in the official system.
It's a reason to be worried.
Yeah, I'm looking at on the Rockies roster on MLB.com, non-roster infielders, Nick Martini. He's played 4 big league games at first base.
Oh boy, he's not played that many big league games to begin with. He's a journeyman minor leaguer who I think played his most big league baseball with Cincinnati over the last 2 years.
Yeah, weird.
But there are a lot of really good names on this list, especially with the top prospects. Most of these guys, if we're being honest, don't really have much of a chance to break camp on the big league roster. That's just how it is. Sometimes you're getting them up here to see what they can do against, some of the more big league level talent that's coming into spring training and see how they mesh with some of your other guys. But, Cole Carrig, Kyle Karros, we love Kyle Karros, but they're not going to bring him all the way up from high A to the big league roster this spring training. It's just really, really unlikely. But I like a lot of the prospects. The guys really to look out for, I think, are going to be Diego Castillo, looking for a bullpen spot. Obviously, Chase Dollander. And then, unfortunately, I really do think that there's a non-zero chance Keston Hiura is going to be on that opening day roster, which I hope not, but we'll see.
Yeah, and the thing to remember with all of this is the Rockies have a full 40-man roster. They are full after signing Thairo Estrada. And so changes would have to be made in spring training, moves, which they naturally happen. But there's guys on that 40-man that will be competing for their spot on the 40-man and perhaps on the big league roster. Justin Lawrence, we've talked about. Now, Diego Castillo coming for that job. Zach Agnos, no outside chance that he could. The Rockies want a veteran, they go with Diego Castillo. They just want a better pitcher, perhaps Zach Agnos. So that's probably what we're looking for. Carson Palmquist is probably in that same camp as Chase Dollander. We'll give him every opportunity to try and make that opening day roster.
Yeah,
but we'll only add him if it really comes down to that.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, but I don't think the Rockies do go with a 6-man rotation. Things are a lot easier if they decide to do that, but I don't think they're going to. But it's like you said, the Rockies have a full 40-man. Not included on this list of 23 players are guys like Adele Amador, and Aaron Schunk, guys who are going to be fighting extremely hard to be on that opening day roster.
Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting, but it'll be nice to see Gabriel Hughes, him back on the mound again, and really hopefully kickstart his journey again. And seeing guys like Sean Sullivan, Jeffrey Yon will be an interesting one coming over. Had a good time down in the Dominican League and out in Japan. So there's interesting names. We'll see the classic veterans of Hira and Martini, Owen Miller, and Austin Nola. But when it comes down to it, real quick, Evan, of these non-roster invite guys, the catching situation is going to be the one to look at, I think, in spring training. Because we think it's just Romo and Goodman. But it sounds like the Rockies have also been high on Braxton Fulford, who's going to be trying to throw his name into the hat and maybe snipe that backup catcher role away from either of those guys.
I think it's more likely that Braxton starts the year in AAA Albuquerque. But he definitely has a shot because he's done some interesting things during his minor league career, and the Rockies are pretty high on him. Another guy that's going to be interesting to watch, who I also don't think is ready for the big show yet, but I've liked what Ronaker Palma's done in some of the lower minor league levels as well. Now, the guy where we're really in trouble, unless in the Nick Martini situation, is if Austin Nola is in any way, shape, or form on that opening day roster. Something's gone terribly wrong if that is the case.
Yeah, it's It's the other two have fallen off a cliff somehow. But
like
again,
literally,
we
like
come to expect from
Hunter
this
Goodman
team.
went hiking and fell off a cliff.
But we've always come to expect the most nonsensical move, and Austin Nola cracking the big league roster honestly could happen.
And it stinks because you shouldn't have to worry about that, but it's just the Rockies don't have the track record of being able to trust that, oh, this is just a camp body. Oh, this is just a minor league invite, or this is just going to be minor league depth, because we've been on this ride before.
Yeah.
And it continues to disappoint us.
Yep. But all things considered, not a bad looking non-roster invite list, and I'm sure there'll probably be some other guys that come along for the ride over the next couple of weeks, but good times ahead.
Yep. Spring training in less than a month.
Ooh, a few weeks.
Yeah. Pitchers and catchers report on the 13th, the first full squad workouts the 18th, and then February 21st, I believe, we're off the races with actual baseball.
I don't know why they have pitchers and catchers report early. Everybody shows up that day anyway.
Yeah. If not earlier, like they say, like pitchers and catchers report, I guarantee you half those guys are already there right now.
Most of these guys that are leaving Rockies Fest are going to go straight down to Arizona.
That was literally what was happening last year at Rockies Fest, where like some of the guys had to leave early, and I asked, is like, hey, what's up? And they're getting on planes to go to Arizona.
Yeah. I guess they have the deadline of, okay, everybody has to be here by now, but okay.
You're right, though. It's just funny. It's like, oh, pitchers and catchers report, and it's like, I guess.
Yeah, and everybody else is here too.
They've been there. It's like, it's not just pitchers and catchers too. Like, most of the other guys are going to be there already. But to be fair, though, some of the veterans may choose to straggle into camp a little bit later than some of the other guys. But we know that. But we know that some of the veterans don't. Like Ryan McMahon was at camp last year extremely early.
That's what they do.
But yeah, that's the non-roster situation. Going to be interesting to watch. And then the very last thing we're going to close out with here, we'll do another projection and expectations for a member of the Rockies roster. And this time, just for a little brightness, we're going to look at the positive expectations of one Mr. Michael Toglia, Big Mikey, Big Mike, Big Mongoose, Tremendous Michael.
Big Mike.
Who should be the Rockies' essentially everyday first baseman going into 2025.
No, we have Nick Martini, Evan.
And Chris Bryant.
Yeah. Who needs Michael Toglia when you have also Keston Hira and Owen Miller?
I quit. Okay, we're getting away from the projection here, but my nightmare situation, like my nightmare lineup right now would be like Nick Martini at first base, Keston Hira at second, Austin Nola at catcher, and Chris Bryant in right field.
There you go.
That is the worst case scenario. But Michael Toglia had a rough start to his 2024 season, ended up getting sent down and having to work his way back onto the roster, came back up in June and just hit the ground running. Ended the season hitting 218, 311, 456 for 2.2 wins above replacement. He had 25 home runs, 55 RBI. He stole 10 bases, 14 doubles. He was good. He was good. He struck out a lot, but there was a lot less of the empty strikeouts, empty at bats. If he got the bat to the ball, he was going to punish it. Mm-hmm. That's the major expectation that we have for Toglia going forward. The projections on Fangraphs that we have used here when it comes to 2025 have him in a very similar place, honestly, than he was last year. It's got a slight decrease in slugging percentage, but his on-base percentage and batting average are roughly the same. He's actually projected to improve his strikeout rate a little bit more. So he had a 32.1% K rate in 2024. He's projected for 29.9. Also, his walk rate to go down just a little bit to 10.2, which if he still has a 10.2 walk rate in 2025, that's just fine by me. He had an 11.8 walk rate, one of the best walk rates in baseball in 2024.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking over on Baseball Reference, some of these projected numbers. I was looking at his game logs real quick. But those same things, 220 average, 300 on base, 423 slugging. They have him going down in home runs at 19. 17 doubles in less than 500 plate appearances, 444 plate appearances with just 49 ribbies. So I don't know what Baseball References their projections are coming from, but those Fangraph ones seem a little bit more in line with what to expect.
Yeah, and Fangraphs, the regular projections have him at 0.4 wins above replacement. The Zips projection has him at 0.5. Shows him as having a pretty solid season overall to be expected of the Zips are always a little bit more friendly to that, and Zips has him at 25 home runs. The thing for me for Toglia is that when you look at his Baseball Savant page over on StatCast for 2024, there is a lot to like there. Just a bunch of red, a bunch of really, really, really good to see top percentile stuff. Top percentile for xWOBA, X slugging, average exit velocity, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, sweet spot percentage, and walk rate. And like you look at his whiff rate and his K rate, and those are both really low because he strikes out a lot. But what it shows you is that when he's not striking out, he's doing something real meaningful with the bat. And that is what we need to see more of from Michael Toglia. Can't see him regress very much. He needs to, if he wants to continue to establish himself as your honestly prototypical slugging first baseman of the modern baseball. He's got to keep building on what he built in 2024.
Yeah, because the big thing was evening out the three true outcomes quite a bit more. Now, that's what everybody's always known throughout his time in the minors of, hey, this is a guy who's going to hit home runs, hopefully draw some walks, and he's going to strike out. Down in AAA, we saw him do those three things, but it hadn't translated to the big leagues. And in that first month, we had saw after spring training last year, he looked good. He was taking better at bats. Things were looking better, but it just wasn't translating to the big league level after he cracked the opening day roster. And so a big part of it, a lot of strikeouts. All of his hits were coming as home runs. He had like the 4 home runs. But other than that, he was getting limited playing time too. He was just kind of sporadic in there. So when they sent him down, when he comes back up in June, in that from June 6th to the end of the season, Evan, this was really the bulk of his season. 101 games. He hit 233, 331, 469, and 800 OPS with his 21 home runs, 14 doubles, 127 strikeouts, 53 walks. A couple of intentional walks in there as well. So in 409 plate appearances, that's what we got of Michael Toglia when he came back up and took over at first base.
Yeah.
That's in line and better than those projections. If you can expand that production out into a full season, add in April, fixes April, and then he's able to play in May, add that whole season together, you've got a hopefully really solid season for Michael Toglia.
That's a starting first baseman right there. That's a good starting first baseman right there. And that's the thing with the Rockies is they need to not do something foolish. And I know they're saying it's like our goal is to get our guys off their feet a little bit more and stuff like that. You need to continue to let Michael Toglia be your daily first baseman. Yeah, you can throw some other guys at first if you're going to give him a day off or you want to slide him into the DH role. But Toglia proved that he has what it takes to be a big leaguer, to be your starting first baseman. Now you've got to let him prove that he can keep that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the big thing is don't leave doubt with what you're doing at first base. Michael Toglia made that spot his. It ain't Chris Bryant's. It ain't anybody else's. It's Michael Toglia's right now. And he proved it. He doesn't need more days off. You need to keep rolling him out there and let him do his thing. And I feel like he can continue to take those steps forward. That's what I expect of him, is to continue to improve on that defense. He could legit be a Gold Glove contender there at first base. And it's wide open since Christian Walker's out of the division and out of the league over in the American League now. So there's opportunity for him to keep going. But I think, Evan, here's the one thing that I want Toglia to do especially. Interestingly enough, you look at his home and away splits, and production-wise, they're pretty dang similar, aside from really one key area, Evan. 17 home runs away from Coors Field. So he hasn't even he hasn't even tapped into the potential of hitting at Coors Field.
I really wonder, because we both know that Toglia has spent a lot of time working with Todd Helton. I really wonder if maybe Todd shared some secrets there. Because hitting home runs away from Coors Field is hugely important for any Rockies player. But now we need him to tap into that alleged ballpark advantage that we have and mash some dingers at home too.
Yeah, because he 75 strikeouts is at home, 72 on the road, 31 walks at home, 23 on the road. He has 22 ribbies at home, 33 on the road, and then, double the home runs away from Coors Field than he does at home. So this is the same amount of hits. He scored the same amount of runs, same amount of plate appearances, evenly split. He does have the higher average at home with a 235 average and a higher on base at 338. So there's aspects of trying to find that even split again. But yeah, he's one of those guys you look across that roster of, this guy should mash at Coors Field. And it's great that he does it away from Coors Field. He's got home runs there. And thanks largely in part to that 3-homer game against the Mets. But he needs to figure out, how can you tap into the potential and the advantage that is Coors Field? Is it more doubles? Is it hitting more home runs? It's something.
Because
that's
Toglia's got, he's a first round draft pick, and he's got the potential where you can see the idea of you're a franchise first baseman there. Maybe he could be the first baseman to win a Silver Slugger since Cuddy in 2013. Maybe he could be the first Rockies first baseman to win a Gold Glove since Todd Helton in 2004. Like, it's been a long time since the Rockies have taken home hardware for a first baseman. And like, there's all-star potential there. There's all-star potential for a lot of young guys on this team. And we've already talked about it with Tovar. We've already talked about it with Doyle. Toglia is another guy where if he can just consistently do what he's been doing in the second half of 2024, this coming year, like, you could be talking about an all-star first baseman for the Rockies.
Yeah. Because you look at his splits, and like I was mentioned before, you just go month by month. Over on Baseball Reference, or his page on MLB.com, and look at his splits month to month, June through the end of the season. Consistency across each month. And you look at that August. Yeah, the home runs, he only had 3, but he had 21 walks that month, a 377 on base. He was a dangerous hitter. He was a patient hitter, and pitchers knew it. They leave him. He did so much better at punishing mistakes, balls over the plate, and that's something that we've missed with a lot of the other Rockies, like an Ezekiel Tovar, ball over the middle of the plate. He's missing them. Toglia, he's not missing those mistakes as much.
He's got the thing that Tovar needs to develop, which is you've got to make pitchers fear making a mistake to you. Because if you make a mistake, if you leave that fastball middle, if your breaking pitch hangs, he's going to demolish it. And he hits the ball hard and he hits the ball far. Like I said, top percentile in terms of hard hit percentage, average exit velocity, and barrel rates. He's going to crush the ball. He is a big, strong guy. That big mongoose is going to make you pay.
Yeah. So I think what we're looking for is, and I would like him to be batting cleanup. Like, that's where I want him. I don't need him. You know, he moved up to 5th quite a bit, which was nice. But batting 4th feels prime for him.
Yeah.
To drive in runs. He can be a huge run producer for this team. And that's contingent on guys getting on in front of him, but giving him those opportunities to drive in runs.
And when he did hit when he did hit cleanup, he did pretty okay, but he spent most of the season hitting either 5th or 6th in the lineup, which are fine spots for him. Like, that middle of the lineup spot is a fine place for a slugger, but I would love to see, like you said, a legitimate cleanup hitter for this team.
Yeah, it's something that they haven't really had. It's a stark contrast to them throwing Brendan Rodgers there in the cleanup as much as they did last year. Of why? What are you doing? Or throwing in Elias Diaz in there, but he's that run producer that they need, and that's what I expect him to be. And hopefully, we talk about those projections. Yeah, you can look at some aspects like, yeah, the on base needs him better, and you never like a guy with a 227 average. Well, what's this? 26 homers though, and a 10% walk rate. I'll take that.
Yeah, simple definitely. It's not everybody can be hitting 300.
Yeah.
In this modern game of baseball, most people aren't hitting 300, but you can trade, like we talked about before, raw batting average is kind of empty. You can trade batting average as long as you are getting on base or you are punishing mistakes and doing things with the ball. Meaningful results. And Toglia was the meaningful results guy.
Yeah. Let me look. I'm going to try to pull up here real quick on StatHead and compare him to Kyle Schwarber from last year. Little Schwarber. Let's see. Michael Toglia. Because we're saying the 3 true outcomes type of guys, you can get something out of Toglia where he fits in to what he's doing. And here's Schwarber. Okay. Getting these results here. Hopefully my internet's working quickly. Okay. So last season, yeah, across the board, Schwarber's was more valuable. 3.5 WAR. But offensively, he had 150 games. He had 142 hits, 38 homers, 104 ribbies, a 248 average, 366 on base, 485 slugging, 851 OPS, 137 OPS plus. So yeah, obviously Schwarber did better in every single category except stolen bases, where he only had 5, and Togi had 10.
The fact that Schwarber had 5 at all is still surprising to me. That is not a guy who's built for speed.
Yeah. But you can hear those numbers, and can you envision Toglia reaching those kinds of numbers in a full season of consistent production? Yeah. No, Schwarber's 248 batting average, like, that's pretty good for what Schwarber is that big power hitting guy that can get on base. And Schwarber struck out 197 times, but he had 106 walks. And so that's the aspect I think Toglia can improve on even more, is that plate discipline to draw some walks. And it just opens up teams having to pitch to him. And when they do, he's walloping it out of the ballpark.
Exactly. High hopes for Toglia. I have always really liked Michael Toglia, and he was in such a good place to finish up the season last year. So I am excited.
And you go ahead, finish.
No, go right ahead.
I was going to say, he got to meet 2 of his heroes today at Rockies Fest.
Yeah, Ezekiel Tovar and Brenton Doyle, the two best defenders in all of baseball.
He was so excited.
I love Toglia. Toglia's got a great personality. He plays with that kind of chip on your shoulder mentality too. of like they sent him down. He didn't like it, and he made darn sure that they would not send him down again.
Mm-hmm. Also, I like Brenton Doyle reshared that video on his Instagram, and he's like, "Great to meet you today, kid." And just so stupid stuff like that.
We were talking about this a little early with Charlie Blackmon of, letting the clubhouse find its own identity. And you've got so many guys right now in this clubhouse who have awesome personalities that they bring to that clubhouse. And you can tell that, and this is the kind of thing that you get when players come up in the minors together and develop together, is you can tell that they all really care about each other and that they're friends and things like that. It's not like, it's you got the business end of the sport, but at the other end of things is that, it's the brotherhood of baseball, the brotherhood in the clubhouse. I love it. I love these guys so much.
Big hopes for Togi.
Big hopes for Togi. Togi and his toga, getting married. So exciting for him.
Can we get a section at Coors Field where like everybody's out there wearing togas, like they wear the judge robes in
it's like the King's Court in Seattle when it was King Felix.
Yeah,
it's the toga party.
What section do you put that in though? Out in right field?
No, it's got to be by first base.
That's where all the executives sit, though.
Yeah, but that's even funnier. You got your business folks, executives here. Then you got a bunch of drunk, wild folks in togas.
There you go. Yeah, there's somebody out there organize the toga party section.
Figure it out.
Not
us. You do the work for us.
I'm an ideas guy.
You're not less of an execution guy. But that's going to do it here for us on Affected by Altitude this week. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, you can find Rocky Mountain Rooftop shows on your favorite podcasting platform of choice, be that Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or the video version on youtube.com. You can also always catch Rocky Mountain Rooftop on social media, be it Blue Sky or Instagram or even YouTube at Rocky Mountain Rooftop. That's at ROCKY MTN Rooftop. Skyler, where can the folks find you at?
Find me on the tweeters at Skyler Timmons. New handle. What? Yeah, it's just my name. Spelled with an E and also spelled with an I. Not that Skylar Tim owns garbage. But also on Blue Sky at STimmons13. You know the rest of it. Yeah, and then writing Wednesday Rock Piles at Purple Row, and then writing stuff over at fansfirstsports.com.
You can find me on Blue Sky at EvanLang27. You know the rest of it. I think we're at the point with Blue Sky where it is saturated enough where you can just say your regular handle unless you've got a domain registered, which is sort of how Blue Sky is doing verified accounts, is you can register a domain name. So like if the Rockies made a Blue Sky account, it would just be at Rockies.com. But yeah, find me on Blue Sky. I'm really happy with how Baseball Blue Sky is taken off, and I enjoy interacting with folks on there. You can also find me over on purplerow.com writing the Monday Rock Piles, and we're going to get Pebble Report started up again here real soon.
There we go.
But thank you so much for sticking with us here on another episode. Spring training is so close. The off season is slowly drawing to a close, and baseball is on our doorstep.
One thing real quick, Evan. Real quick.
Hello?
Hey, Chris Bryant. It's Bill Schmidt. Real quick. How you doing?
Oh, getting ready for spring.
Hey, did you actually end up making it to Rockies Fest? We had you on. Your name was on the list. Did you actually show up?
I don't know if I was there or not.
How do you not know that, Chris?
Everything. I was in a haze.
Oh, how's your back doing?
Oh, I've made peace with it. I'm ready to play a lot of right field in 2025.
Yeah, we're really hoping for that, Chris. How does once a week sound?
As long as I can play first base a bunch too.
How about twice a week with that?
Oh wow, 3 whole starts a week.
No, you'll be our everyday DH.
No, I want to play in the field.
No,
I want to get caught in the netting like a sea turtle.
No, Chris. Chris, take care of your back. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
I like sea turtles.
I'm hanging up on you.
Oh, okay. I'll make peace with this too. See you in the spring.
So menacing. Farewell.
Thanks, everybody. This is such a stupid show.
This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.